Today, we are diving deep into Frank Norris's lost novel, Vandover and the Brute. It's this absolutely unflinching look at a man's psychological collapse. So let's trace the decay of a soul and watch the terrifying triumph of the beast within.
This line, right here, it just captures the entire tragedy of Vandover. This isn't some story about a quick, dramatic fall from grace. Oh no, this is about a slow, methodical, and truly horrifying self-destruction. It's a life spent chipping away at its own foundations until there's literally nothing left.
So we start with Vandover as a young guy with everything going for him. Privilege, a good education, real talent. The world is basically his oyster. But Frank Norris shows us right from the get-go that this is a man at war with himself. He's a perfect example of what the naturalist writers were obsessed with, this idea that we're all just a product of our genetics and our environment.
And this slide really breaks down that central conflict, doesn't it? On one side, you have this civilized man, the guy shaped by his environment, Harvard, upper-class San Francisco life. This is the Vandover who loves art, who has this idealized, almost pure respect for women, who dreams of painting a masterpiece. But then, there's the other side, the brute. And that's all about heredity, his weak will, his indulgence, that raw, unchecked animal instinct.
And his art is the perfect illustration of his potential. I mean, this wasn't just some casual hobby. He had a real, genuine gift. Norris tells us he dreams about creating this huge painting called The Last Enemy. It's this dramatic scene of a dying soldier and his horse facing down a lion in the desert. Yeah, it's a little over the top, but it shows a soul that's reaching for something bigger, something noble. That painting, it really represents the whole path he could have taken, the man he could have become.
But that brute was always there, Its roots were deep. Norris points to his childhood, growing up without a mother, an environmental factor that left him kind of morally unmoored. And then comes this huge moment. He's a kid, and he stumbles upon an article on obstetrics in an encyclopedia. The cold, clinical text just shatters his innocent ideas about women forever. That cynicism really starts to fester at Harvard. He gets in with Charlie Geary, remember that name, and he gets drunk for the first time. It scares him, sure, but it also opens a door to the indulgence that's going to eventually swallow him whole. The seeds for his downfall are already planted.
Okay, so he gets back to San Francisco. His artistic dreams are still alive, barely flickering. And right then, he makes this conscious, absolutely fatal decision. He makes a deal with himself, thinking he can have it both ways. This is the moment it all goes wrong. It's just staggering arrogance. Vandover actually believes he's in control. He thinks he can let his dark side out to play for a little while, go to the city's seedy cafes, satisfy his appetites, and then, whenever he's done, he'll just lock the brute back in its cage. He saw no danger. Wow, he could not have been more wrong.
Because of course, once the brute is unleashed, it has zero intention of being put away. His moral slide just picks up speed like a runaway train. The cafes lead to an affair with Ida Wade, a woman obsessed with keeping up appearances. When that affair ends in a shocking tragedy, Vandover's reputation is toast. He's completely ostracized from polite society. Even the one good thing he has, this pure, gentle affection for a woman named Turner Rabbis, he drags that through the mud too, destroying any chance at the good life she represented.
So just as his inner world is completely imploding, the outside world starts to crush him. The city of San Francisco becomes this indifferent, grinding machine. It's a character in its own right, a relentless force that just mirrors and speeds up his own decay.
I mean, it is just one disaster after another. He survives a shipwreck, gets back to the city in rags, only to find out his father's dead. He tries to go to a dance, and his old friends publicly snub him. Then a lawsuit tied to the Ida Wade mess wipes out his entire inheritance. And for the final blow, his supposed friend, Charlie Geary, the same slick, ambitious guy from Harvard, cheats him out of the last bits of property he has left. Every single pillar of his life is just violently kicked away.
So he goes from this life of incredible privilege, the son of a rich property owner, to this one single number, $23 a month. That's it. That's all he has left. And it's not just about being poor. It's the total erasure of who he used to be, leaving him completely vulnerable to the beast that's been waiting inside.
All right, now we're getting to the absolute heart of the horror. He's been stripped of his money, his friends, his art, his humanity. And Vandover's mind finally just shatters. The whole metaphor of the brute, the animal inside, it stops being a metaphor. It becomes his terrifying waking reality.
This moment, this is the beginning of the end. He's totally alone in this cheap, bare hotel room looking out over what Norris calls a sordid and grimy wilderness of city roofs. And in this moment of just complete despair, he lets out a cry. And for a split second, he hears not his own voice, but the snarl of an animal. The psychological break has begun. And what Vandover is experiencing, it's a real thing. It's a classic case of clinical lycanthropy. It's a rare psychological condition, but it's real. See, for Vandover, the wolf was always a part of him, that indulgent, selfish brute. Now that his human identity has been totally stripped away, his broken mind just latches onto the only identity it has left. He actually starts crawling on the floor of his room, totally convinced the transformation is happening.
And this is the horrifying result of that delusion. An old acquaintance comes to check on him and finds this. Vandover, naked, on all fours, barking like a dog at the bedposts. The brute is no longer just some hidden impulse or a moral problem. It's become his physical state. It's a total psychological collapse. The animal has finally, completely won.
So we come to the chilling final act. And if you're looking for some kind of redemption, some last-minute reprieve, you won't find it. The man we met at the start of this story is gone. Only the brute is left, now just a beast of burden, serving the very system that helped tear him apart. This table just lays it all out, doesn't it? The finality of his fall. The aspiring artist living on a big inheritance is reduced to doing odd jobs. The last scrap of his talent is twisted into painting these tiny, generic landscapes on iron safes for pennies. And when even that's gone, he's haunting the free lunch counters in the city's worst neighborhoods, surviving on scraps he gets with 5-cent beer.
And this is the final humiliation. A moment of pure, gut-wrenching horror. Geary, who's now this successful, ruthless real estate guy, doesn't even recognize the broken man he's hiring to do some menial chore.
The transformation is just absolute. I mean, think back to that young artist, dreaming of painting a noble lion, this symbol of defiance. Now look at the reality. He's an animal himself, on his hands and knees, mindlessly scrubbing a filthy floor in a cheap rental owned by the very man who destroyed him. And while he works, a tenant's kid just mocks him, shouting, "Get up, you old lazy bones!" He isn't a man anymore. He's a creature.
And so we're left with this question, this haunting question at the center of all American naturalist writing. Was Vandover doomed from the start by his own genes, by his own brutish nature? Or was he a victim of his environment, a merciless modern world that rewards the ruthless guys like Geary and just devours the weak? Norris doesn't give us any easy answers. He just leaves us to think about how terrifyingly fragile the human soul really is.